Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. This is the Iceman, Matt Freites, and that is Mike P. It is Thanksgiving Eve. We are doing the 49ers and Seahawks watch party. This is probably the most unprofessional thing I've ever done, the most amateur thing I've ever done, and it will be probably the most fun that we have. So I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. We hope you had a wonderful, wonderful day with friends, family, eating a lot. Mike wants to shout out the scotch of the day here on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, why not? I'm drinking Dalwhinnie, which is a pretty good scotch from Scotland. I guess all scotch are from Scotland, though.
Is it?
It is, but it's really good. I think it's remotest distillery in Scotland, but it's really good. It's kind of a light Highland scotch.
Okay.
We'll take sponsors, by the way.
Yeah, we will.
Dalwhinnie, please send me more
Always
scotch.
take sponsors. So Mike and I are having a lovely, lovely time at your parents' house, so my in-laws' house, and we had a lovely day today. We got to watch some football.
Yep.
And we're here to just sort of watch it here. Hopefully, at some point, your dad will make some great comment that will hit the microphones at some point. And so I'm kind of hopeful for that. Now, had we gone live during the Cowboys game,
It would have been loud.
it would have been good. There was definitely
Yeah.
a few expletives that were thrown.
Considering our team, obviously the Dallas Cowboys, by the shirt I'm wearing, won by like 35 points. You wouldn't have known it by the amount of yelling in this household.
Yeah, that's very true. But you're a passionate fan. Isn't that
sure.
kind of how it should be? So I want to welcome everybody who's watching. So if you are watching, make sure to shout us out in the comment section. We will be live for, I don't know, hour and 10 minutes, something like that. Depends on how the game is going. So right now I don't even want to say simulcasting is not the right word because that is illegal. But we are we are watching the game as we speak. And the 49ers, I believe, are up 7-3 over the Seahawks. Now, I want to also say that the Seahawks are wearing their, I'm not even sure what to call it, neon green, lime green, shit green, whatever. It sucks.
It's the worst.
And it's
Worst
the worst.
uniform.
One of the worst uniforms.
It's
and,
maybe the worst. Is there a worse one?
I don't know. I guess you have to think about some of these like new agey kind of ones. I don't want to say throwbacks are some of the worst. Like those Pittsburgh Steelers Bumblebee ones, I guess have history, but they're not very good.
They're not very good.
The Packers, when they wear their
When they wear
weird,
the blue.
yeah, the Packer blue is not very good. But again, that's a throwback.
But it's not
really sure.
awful. It's not like this. I
No.
mean,
It's not like this. Yeah, sorry to every Seahawks fan who's watching this right now, but it's our personal opinion
Yeah, I never
and
liked
not
it.
the opinion of the Matty S Media
in fact,
Network.
but we did have a discussion about Seahawks.
We did.
Uniforms and how even their regular uniforms really aren't that good either. They're very
No, not very
kind of
good at all.
annoying in many ways, but they're throwbacks from this year, which go back to the kind of Seahawks we grew up watching.
Yes.
They look great.
Well, so what? I guess it was. I guess the Rick Meyer years you're talking about, like the Joey
like
Galloway
Steve
years.
Largent.
Steve Largent was probably more
80s,
your time. You were
Yeah.
born 4 years before I was. So Steve Largent probably is a little bit before your time, but I remember Joey Galloway was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Joey Galloway can still run a 4.440, which is quite amazing. Oh, look at this. Look at this.
Oh, we've
Denise in the feed tonight.
Yeah, right.
Aunt Denise live from Goose Creek, Somerville, somewhere, either way.
yeah.
I think she's a first-time participant, and she says they look like a bunch of Grinches out there. I'm not even sure the Grinch would wear this crap.
It's really bright.
It's really, really bad.
I feel like it's so bright it saturates the television screen like
Yeah.
too much, where you can't even.
It's not good.
I'm having trouble like delineating between players when they're staying next to each other because there's just too much
Yeah.
color.
That could be a function of us getting old, and it could be a function of your dad needing a new 86-inch television, which your mom is not going to sign off on whatsoever. But I think if we brought it home, your dad would think I am the greatest son-in-law of all time.
I'm not really sure. Like,
I would have to get it by your mom, but I
there's
could
like a
take her.
75 inch up there right now. I'm
could
not
ta-
sure that
Hey,
an extra 9 inches. Would
yeah, she said. So
that's what she said.
let's kind of flash back to earlier in the day. So the Detroit Lions, who are actually a good football team this year, and that's not an exaggeration. They actually are a good football team this year. 8-2 coming into this game, and I don't want to go into the the Lions lioned, but every good team has a bad game.
Sure.
In the NFL,
But they already had their bad game.
They had a really bad game, but this was a weird game for them, and you could kind of say that they looked that way. Oops, Geno Smith just tripped. He's inevitable, and
Close to a safety.
I know the thing about the Lions though is they they had a bad game, but they've also looked not great the last 2 games. So
Yeah.
comeback win against the Bears. The Bears are really bad. You kind of figure that's going to happen because the Bears are not quite there yet. But the Lions really need to come back. And this game, though, they fell behind early. Didn't look good doing it. The Packers did what I said to you while we were making stuffing or mashed potatoes or whatever. I'm like, well, if you're the Packers, go ahead and try to get to them early, throwing long bombs down the field. And the Lions really couldn't recover. Like, the score doesn't really show how in front the Packers were.
Yeah.
And my question is this indicative of maybe a trend for the Lions? Because it is difficult to get through a full 17-game NFL season being good. It just is.
Yeah, I mean, I think a Lions fan would tell you this is absolutely typical of the Lions. They're so used to being disappointed that I think they're all waiting for this. I was not. They had finally convinced me that they were good this year. And I was like, I think that the Lions have got this great avenue to the number 1 seed in the NFC. They look like a really solid team. They've got a relatively easy schedule coming up. But yeah, last week's game and this week's game, it kind of puts a little pause on it and makes you worry a little bit that they're going to kind of regress to the mean, if you will. But
I think their mean is actually still pretty good. I think that they are coming up to the point now where it's tough because you are not surprising anybody anymore.
Right.
Last year we said that about the Eagles, and we said as they got into November and December, are they going to show us how good of a football team they were? And they just kept winning, right? They just kept putting it together.
Right.
And that's what you want to see from a team like the Lions.
what you're doing this year too.
Well, you're kind of getting that too, but I think that this year the Eagles are good, and we'll get to them at some point. But so my other takeaway from this game was that people, in my opinion, were a little bit too eager to give Jordan Love the next franchise quarterback mark because you had a good game. I mean,
because he had a good game. Right.
He had a great game. Right? He had a great game. It was pretty much a flawless game. I don't think he turned the ball over. Christian McCaffrey continues to run all over the field because the San Francisco 49ers just have better players than everybody else. And that's why Brock Purdy is Brock Purdy. But so the Lions, it was disappointing. The Packers, I think, have things to build on, but they're not quite there yet. They're in rebuild mode.
Yeah.
Second game of the day, Dallas Cowboys took it to those pesky Commanders. Still sounds weird to say that.
Yeah.
But the Cowboys...
Terrible name.
Yeah,
Can we
terrible
talk
name.
about that? Can we
Yeah,
talk
we
about how
can.
bad their name is?
Yes, we can.
I'd
And
love to hear, I know we don't have a lot of people necessarily streaming this now,
listen,
but
doesn't
maybe
matter.
after the fact here, I think if
be after
this
the
gets
fact.
put on your thing, I'd love to hear people's comments on
Ooh, I was like, Deebo
on-
Samuel's really going to throw a pass? No, not
what
really.
better name they could have. And is it too soon or too late to change, or is it possible? I don't know. It's just such a boring name.
May I provide a possible, devil's advocate, maybe, is that perhaps there is no name that you could come up with for a pro franchise now because we are too married to the team names that are already there.
It exists.
Yeah.
I mean, expansion teams happen though.
They have. Did we make fun of? I mean, they went easy with Panthers and Jaguars. Like, cat teams are always good. I guess
Yeah.
you could go bird teams, but like, what's the next bird? The dodos?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've exhausted.
They've kind of
birds.
exhausted birds. Have they exhausted cats? I mean, like, where do you go from there? And in Washington, they're trying to do the cute thing by coming up with something that is like uniquely DC or whatever, even though the team plays in Landover, Maryland. And they're trying to like figure all that out. So, I mean, I got that they wanted to go military, but they also passed up like a bunch of other cool military names that they could have used. And to me, it was just a very odd execution. I don't know. I kind of wonder like would I have liked any of the names, because there were people who wanted like the Red Wolves, and I don't like that either. So I don't know if anything actually sounds cool. I mean, much of these team names in the NFL now have been long standing for the most part. And I mean, you got the 49ers, which comes from the Gold Rush, San Francisco Gold Rush, which is amazing, right? So I'm not sure that they could do any better. But Commanders, I think if the Commanders had better uniforms, like if the rollout
that
of the
definitely would've been
team,
better, yeah.
yes, if the rollout of the team was better, it
Yeah,
just
the
wasn't
uniforms
good.
are awful.
Yeah, the uniforms are awful. The team is awful. The franchise is awful. Everything about them is awful.
Yeah.
And they played pretty. Wow. Okay, I don't want to say they played awful. They played awful in the fourth quarter.
They played great for 3 quarters.
Yeah,
and then
well-
they just kind of run into the juggernaut that is
Yeah.
just not being as good as the team
No.
they're playing against.
So they're an afterthought.
Yeah.
The Commanders are an afterthought. The Cowboys are not an afterthought.
No.
And now people like Phil Simms and others were trying to give the Cowboys their flowers early and talk about how this could be one of the best defenses in NFL history, blah, 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 blah.
I think if they could have had healthy digs,
Yeah.
we could be talking about
But
that.
these are just platitudes that people give out after a great performance, right?
Sure.
Like, and that's fine. I mean, that's
Sure.
what their job is, to do, to hype teams up. But I do think that the Cowboys will be in it when all is said and done.
Yeah.
It's a matter of, and I think that Boomer Esiason said it perfectly, is like Dak is going to be measured and the Cowboys are going to be measured by what they do in the playoffs. And that's fair because you play to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
So that's kind of how that goes.
Yeah.
And just to switch this, Brock Purdy under pressure for what was that? Brock Purdy
No
just
way.
shut, no way.
Did
So
it hit the ground?
let's talk about, can we talk about
Sorry.
Brock Purdy for a second? No, it's fine. 'Cause that's why we do a watch party, because the game is on here. But can we talk about Brock Purdy for a second? Because Brock Purdy has created this weird, I don't even know like how to describe it, but it's like this weird sort of gap in the space-time continuum of how we have evaluated quarterbacks, right? Because I think for many years, decades even, we knew what a good quarterback was. And we knew where you were going to find a good quarterback. Very rarely, Tom Brady was an outlier because being picked in the 6th round very rarely got you to the promised land. Tony Romo also being undrafted.
Right.
Kurt Warner, right? These are names that are going to be in the pantheon of quarterbacks, but like there's not that many of them throughout the entirety of the expanse of NFL professional play.
Right.
And so Brock Purdy gets drafted the very last guy. They even have a name. It's called Mr. Irrelevant. And he comes in. Nobody ever expects him to play. Trey Lance gets hurt. Jimmy G gets hurt. And here comes Brock Purdy. And you and I both at the time were like, as long as he doesn't die out there. That's
Right.
really what we said. As long as he doesn't die out there.
Right.
And he led them to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
He stole the starting job from Trey Lance.
Yeah.
He's currently the starting quarterback of a 7-3 football team.
Yeah.
So we don't know anything. I'm convinced.
That was kind of my takeaway too, is whatever we have done or whatever you hear all the talking heads talking about and all the scouts and everybody who evaluates quarterback play, and they come up with these, I mean, I feel like they miss as much as they hit. And I mean, you get a Brock Purdy going last in the draft, you get Zach Wilson going 2, and it's just kind of I don't know if they're just not are they too in the trees when they evaluate these things? Are they looking, you know what I mean? Like they see every leaf and mark on the wood, if you will, on the bark, but they're forgetting to look at the forest of it to see like a body of work and how they play under pressure and what their personality is. And
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know how does it happen? How does Brock Purdy go last in the draft and then put up 2 really good? I mean, like I get it. Like, any quarterback is capable of putting up a couple of good games, but like he's put up a pretty solid body of work.
Yeah.
Granted, he has a great team around him, though. I mean, I get that.
I know he does. Dave, almost all top quarterbacks now were 1st-round picks. In their prime, there was Dak, Russ, Purdy, Hurts was a 2nd. So I mean, my point being is like, there rarely did you find guys that were that low. And I think what Dave is saying here is like 1st-round picks is where you normally get your franchise guy. And so it's just funny to watch a guy like Brock Purdy. But I think if Brock Purdy were to be put on another, like if he's the 3rd-string guy on a team that has significantly less talent, does he look like Brock Purdy? Does he look as Brock Purdy-ish? But also, how much does that turkey doesn't look appetizing, but how much does the talent around him mask some of the things that maybe he could be doing if he was asked to be the guy? Like if he was drafted in the 1st round.
Right, and he was in a terrible team.
Yeah.
If he was playing for the Jets, for example.
Well, nobody could be good. No, nobody could be good as a Jet, I don't think.
I mean,
I'm convinced of this.
That's my question. Like, right, if he doesn't have all this talent, does he? I mean, is he good? But is he just not? He's, he ends up becoming average because he doesn't have dudes who get open and people who take the. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe we over prioritize the quarterback position.
Well,
Maybe we over prioritize the quarterback position for things like arm talent and speed and those things, and we under appreciate game understanding, football read, football IQ, ability to understand and change plays and understand, learn new things quickly. Maybe all of those things are more important because once you're a Division I, especially Division I starting quarterback in college, right? You probably have a semblance of talent, right? You're going to have some level of arm talent. You may not be at the elite, the Zach Wilson is an undeniable talent.
That's what they said. They said he
right?
had
But
the
then,
throw
like,
of pro day.
so maybe you look at Brock Purdy, and he's not an undeniable talent, but he still started for a Division I program for 3 years or more, maybe.
Yes.
And so maybe it comes down to like we overvalue the physical traits in the quarterback, and we undervalue the mental traits, and maybe it's the mental traits that really matter in the NFL when you put them with a full team that's put together well with a good coach.
It's possible. I mean, I think that scouting in and of itself. I mean, I guess it's an imprecise science to be fair. Because I mean, drafting also is somewhat of a gamble. You're trying to project what somebody's going to do for you. Now, there's a ton of can't miss guys that have done really, really well in the NFL, more than well, right? And then there's a bunch of guys who we all think are going to be great, and they don't turn out for one reason or another. Whether it's they don't have the mental fortitude that we talked about, whether they can't read defenses, whatever, right? And there's a bunch of those guys. But I'll tell you what, a guy who is still doing God's work out there is Pete Carroll chewing that gum on that sideline. I know you're a big Pete Carroll guy. So what is it with the gum chewing with
I don't
you?
know. It just annoys me.
Why? Everybody is it the ferocity?
It's
at
the
which
ferocity. Yeah. It's like, come on, man.
I mean, he's very. And look at that.
70 years old. It's
That
like
Christian
chewing gum on the
McCaffrey
sideline.
again.
Yeah.
It's shocking. Christian McCaffrey. So the 49ers also, the other thing that they seem to be able to do is just like, oh, we need X. We'll just go ahead and get him. So
I know,
this year,
seriously.
they're like, oh, third round pick, Chase Young? Yeah, sure. Just go ahead.
Yeah,
It's just like it's like throwing in cheesy bread on a pizza order. You're like, yeah, that sounds great. Just go ahead and throw that in there.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, right? The team that they've built is just so full of talent.
It is full of talent, but the thing about it is, I think it's fair to say.
But it's not a lot of grown talent.
No.
They went and grabbed talent.
No, I mean, and Dave here in the comments too, talking about if the 49ers could get C.J. Stroud, they would probably jettison Brock Purdy in a heartbeat. And I think that that's fair. I think
Stroud looks pretty good.
Hey, Stroud looks really good. Yes, he does look really good. And we actually talked about earlier Sam Howell.
Yeah.
If not for C.J. Stroud having such a great season as a young player, he'd be getting a little bit more talk. But again, I don't know if Sam Howell is the kind of guy that, like, I think they have something, but I don't think they have, like, I don't think that they have this, like, amazing, like.
Here's the question. If you put Sam Howell on the 49ers, would it be any different? If you swap places, Sam Howell and Brock Purdy.
Yeah. I mean,
that'd be interesting to see what would happen.
That's a good point. I
You
mean,
because Howell looks pretty good.
he does look pretty
He's got
good.
a good arm. He throws the ball well. He's got some good movement with his legs.
I think what's so amazing is
He's got some Houdini-like skills. Some of those things. He escaped, I don't know how many, what looked like sacks today, where all of a sudden he pulled out of the pocket.
and they're trying to tank, right? Like,
I mean, maybe.
I think that
No one
tank
tries
might be
to tank. I
tank
think these
might
guys
be.
like to win.
You can make an argument that some teams over the course of the NFL have tried to tank. I mean,
fair.
I think the Cardinals tried to tank until Josh Dobbs became a rocket scientist and they actually looked decent. And then Kyler came back, which I'm kind of surprised that Kyler
He
was
hasn't looked
playing.
awful. Yeah.
No. He hasn't looked awful. But I remember early in the off season, we talked about, would he ever play?
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't get hurt, you don't want him to get hurt, because are they going to move on from him? And as we said here, Pete chews gum like Isaiah Pacheco runs, which I guess is very ferocious.
Yeah.
So the 49ers, though, this is an interesting game from your perspective, because obviously as a Cowboys fan, you want the 49ers to lose.
I think, see, here's my thing is, I don't know. I don't know that matters. I think, because here's what I don't know that Dallas gets in outside of being a wild card. And so then I just don't care, because that means they're going to be playing on the road no matter who they play against.
Your dad believes different. Your dad
He
thinks
does.
that they can win the
Yeah.
division.
I just don't think that. I think they can beat the Eagles. I still don't think they can win the division, because I think they're going to drop the games against like Miami and Buffalo probably.
You think so?
I think it's very possible.
I think, I mean, Buffalo right now, they got a sort of a get-right game against the Jets. You know, that's a nice
Yeah,
little
I
layup
really wanted them
to lose
to
the
give
Jets.
up on the season after they.
Oh, I don't think that they
after
are.
they lost that game to Denver. I really wanted them to like just kind of be like, yeah. Well,
To be fair, if Denver
and
didn't
just, like,
give up
have
on
a give
this-
up game, and then go into the Jets game and just kind of look average, maybe get the win but look average.
I don't think
And I just
anybody.
kind of hope they were done, But like I'm like, oh great, now they got this magic back, and they're gonna.
Only the Patriots can look average against the Jets. That's what I'm convinced about. Well, and the Eagles too, apparently, but
Yeah, the Eagles lost to the Jets.
Such an
What
F-
happened there?
NFL. That's all it is. It's
Yeah.
the NFL. So the 49ers now take a 14-3 lead over the Seahawks. I'm convinced that Geno probably not 100%. I mean, not many players at this point are 100%. It's like it's like what happens to your computer when your battery has degraded so much that like 100% battery is like 85% because all these players are so hurt now. But Geno Smith has had such an interesting career trajectory, not nearly as interesting as Tyrod Taylor, who had a lung punctured, but Geno Smith, who pretty much did nothing in his 20s and now is like almost a 5,000-yard passer, which is just odd.
I just think it's weird because we said, and this may be where I was wrong. I said at the beginning of the year, I said he's going to regress to the mean because, I mean, you can't spend 7 seasons being average and then all of a sudden be good.
Apparently you can.
But apparently you can because he looks better than average this year.
I mean, Pete Carroll, we made fun of him because they jettisoned Russell Wilson, who at the time, and I'm not convinced that Russell Wilson has found his like prime form, right?
Agreed.
I think that they have figured some things out as a team and are not as abysmal as giving up 70 points, right?
Right.
But something about what has worked here in Seattle is Pete Carroll has been able to put whatever is needed for Geno. Oh, is that a pick?
That's an interception.
It could be. Now, Geno Smith, when he up as an interception. So as we're talking about Geno and Pete putting things together, the 49ers are going to run him out of the building. Well, I mean, guys are going to throw picks, but I kind of wonder if Geno's actually hurt still.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, look, he's clearly got something wrong. And they had to do their interview with him on like a training table.
Ooh. I mean, both teams need this. That's the thing about the Seahawks is like,
He's got it.
you almost can't take a game. You almost can't take a game off now at this point in the season, unless he's like really, really, really hurt.
Right.
But Geno Smith, they need him to win. Like Drew Lock came in last week and didn't look good.
He didn't look great. Although it's
They
not.
won,
I mean, it's
right?
always hard to come in.
Oh, Drew Lock. Like I remember when they named Geno the starter, and I thought, how bad does Drew Lock have to be? And then Geno threw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. So what the hell do I know? Nothing. That's why there's there's 5 people in here right now, which has kind of been our average lately, which is pretty good considering that when we started doing live shows in August, we had an average of like 1.
Yeah, you're right.
1.5 maybe. You got like some people who popped in, what the hell is this? And then they would leave.
It's a huge increase for
I know,
us.
right? It is a huge increase. Well, when you're pulling the kind of small numbers that we are, when you get one extra person, I can statistician that
That's
shit
not how
up
it
and-
works. You use statistics to
I
make
know.
yourself either bigger or scarier than you actually are.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
anyway, you have what were we talking about before? Oh, we were talking about the Cowboys. So the Bills and the Dolphins. I think the Bills have some talent. I mean, things obviously opened up in the AFC with all those injuries to guys in the NFC North, with Burrow being out, obviously, Mark Andrews being out, Deshaun Watson, although so Deshaun Watson being out though, when they're starting a rookie quarterback from here on in,
They
I think
won
that
with the rookie quarterback.
they didn't look great,
No,
but they play the Steelers.
they
Who,
got a good defense though.
they do. I think
That
that's
helps a lot.
I think the Dolphins, though, that's an interesting matchup because you have the Dolphins who have looked great against bad teams, the Cowboys who have looked great against bad teams, and now they're both playing each other. So it's like, well, they both can't lose.
Right.
They could tie, which would actually be almost fitting because it's probably won't. And I would be more scared personally for the Cowboys' sake of the Dolphins because I think the Dolphins represent a very fast offense, a very innovative offense, and they're Tua gets the ball out really fast, and one of the strengths of the Cowboys' defense is getting to the quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's what worries me the most about the Dolphins is that I feel like they match up well against Dallas defensively, like offense on defense. I think that it's gonna be difficult for the Dallas defense to get the pressure they need on Tua. I think they're going to have. I worry about someone like Tyreek Hill matching up against Stephon Gilmore, who is, while still very good in his older age, is definitely. I think he's a little slower than he used to be.
Yes.
And so I worry about Tyreek running a crossing route and basically just outpacing Stephon Gilmore, and then that is just open for big plays, and so that worries me a little bit. And then their running attack is just so fast, and it's not. It's so well blocked and schemed. That worries me. I think on the other side of the ball, the Dallas offense can do pretty well against Miami.
Yeah, their defense,
but I just don't know.
Still a liability.
Just don't know which way it's going to go.
I think that the defense of the Dolphins can be a liability. It hasn't been like super stout. Like when they brought in Vic Fangio this year, and it seemed like they had a lot of pieces to be able to have like a top 10 defense. And I haven't seen it yet, to be honest with you. And so I think the Dolphins will be interesting they're going to make the playoffs. They're probably even going to win the division because I don't I don't know how if how the Bills are going to do the rest of the season, but Miami has not played well against the Bills.
No.
Under the Tua era, they have not played well against the Bills.
Well, they play well at home against the Bills.
They do, but again, like Tua hasn't been able to have like consistent all across the board because when they played him this year, they were what 45-10 or something like that,
No
or
one up in Buffalo.
48-20 or whatever.
Yeah.
That was like killed them. That was before Josh Allen started playing YOLO football again. So I think that the Cowboys do have an inside shot at the division, but I think when you look at it realistically, I think the Eagles, if they can't beat the Eagles, it's over, right? Because they've already lost to the Eagles once. So if they can't beat them on December 10th, it's tough to win the division when you've lost two.
Well, it's definitely over if they don't win the Eagles game. But I think it's also the bigger problem with that is that if you can't beat the Eagles, you can't get to the NFC Championship game, or you can't get to the Super Bowl because the Eagles are. I mean, you got to be able to.
It's tough to beat a team three times, though. Right? It's tough to beat a team.
It is tough to beat. I agree with that. It is hard. The more times you play them, I don't know. Dallas really could have beat the Eagles last time in Philly, so I think they can beat the Eagles. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm a little shell shocked Dallas Cowboys fan at this point, where I just kind of at the point now where I just expect.
Well, luckily
them
for
to fail.
luckily for you, as some of the commenters are pointing out, is that if they don't win the division, they're going to get either like the Falcons or the Saints or something on the road. But if they get the Falcons, you don't have to cover Bijan, you don't have to cover Kyle Pitts because they're not going to throw to them or use them in any way.
Yeah, I mean,
and so
I agree with that. Like being the 5 seed is the way to go, right? In the sense that like you're going to get a fairly easy, in theory, easy game for the first game because you can play against the NFC South, and none of those teams look good.
Yes, no.
But they still have to play the game, and that's the thing is in NFL.
And Bucks won the Super Bowl having to play a road game in Washington. Remember?
Yeah.
So I don't think that's. I think that it's fine. I think that if you look at the teams that they would have to play, again, I think I'd rather play Atlanta, only because I think Atlanta. I mean, well, actually, I'm not sure. Saints have no offense.
I would.
That's a great question. Let me ask that. For the people that are watching this, like if you're a Cowboys fan, put yourself in a Cowboys hat, put a cowboy hat on, put yourself in that mentality. And would you rather play the Saints, who have Derek Carr is hurt, or Jameis Winston, who just does whatever the hell he wants and plays like chuck it up? Or would you rather play the Falcons and Arthur Smith, who have tons of weapons, but he has no clue how to use?
Or a quarterback.
No, he has no quarterback. That's absolutely right, because Desmond Ridder is coming back in. So,
but Superdome is hard to play in.
Yes. The crowd is very difficult. The team is not as good, but the crowd and DK Metcalf. Oh, man. Did he catch that?
I think so.
Wow. DK Metcalf, who.
Did they turn over that interception?
Yeah, they got him on. They stopped him. It was 3 and out. Yeah, so Brock Purdy got kind of whipped around and thrown down. Let's see, did he catch it? Nope. Okay, so DK Metcalf. Ooh, I
don't know. It looked like his heel was out of bounds.
See, here is a problem with the highlighter green uniforms. Yeah. When the guy goes to look at the replay, very obvious that you're not touching the white.
That's
because you have this bright green thing. It's hideous. It's awful. It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
But if you look at the rest of the NFL, so now that we're heading into December. So I think there's 9 weeks left, because I feel like the season is about that long.
There's 7 weeks left.
I know. It's something like that. But it feels like it used to be once January hit, right into playoffs. And it's a very, very long season. So, but let's go to the NFC North, because obviously they had all those injuries. But the other thing that happened recently was the Steelers finally fired their offensive coordinator. AFC, whatever. Yeah. Same thing. And anyway, and AFC North. So Matt Canada is fired. They sent him somewhere. And I know some Pittsburgh Steelers fans who were calling for this because the offense has been putrid. I think that's putting it lightly.
Yeah.
They're somehow, 6-3?
Yeah, way better than they should be.
6-3, and they've been outgained in every game. And so they get rid of the offensive coordinator, which is, of course, going to happen. They're not going to get rid of Mike Tomlin in the middle of the season.
Right.
But I ask you, did it make a difference? Because Kenny Pickett so far has not looked that great. Their running game sucks. And George Pickens has to be thinking, get me the hell out of here.
I think it's because Kenny Pickens' hands are too small.
It could be, though. He's not, I don't get a sense that Kenny Pickett is actually any good. I don't think it's the coordinator. If you put Kenny Pickett on the 49ers right now, Who'd you rather have, Kenny Pickett or Brock Purdy?
I don't know.
You don't
I just
know?
don't know. I can't
do.
ever tell because I watch those Steelers games. It's like I just don't see anything interesting with their offense. It's hard to judge whether or not it's a skill problem with the players they have or the scheme or it's just
So how are they winning then?
I don't. That's the most mind-boggling part of the whole thing. It's like I keep
6-3.
watching like parts and pieces of their games and coming away going, well, they're just not very good. And then I look at their record, like, wait, they won that game? How'd they win that game? So I don't know. I don't watch the Steelers games enough to really tell you why they're winning.
I don't think anybody does because I catch them
Bore
on
me.
Red Zone, and they don't show them very often on Red Zone because they don't score
score
many
a lot.
points, so you don't get to actually see them all that often.
Right.
But now, of course, Joe Burrow is gone, and that sinks the Bengals pretty
Yeah,
much
they're
done.
done.
But let me ask you this. I brought this up to Cleveland the other day because he's a big your best ability is availability guy.
Sure.
Now, in the offseason, when we were doing our previews, you said Joe Burrow may be a quarterback who gets hurt because he's had some injuries. He had the ACL tear, I think, in his rookie year.
Yep.
He had the calf injury right at the ankle earlier in the off season, and it seemed like it was kind of affecting him. Put some things together, the team looks good, and now he's out with this wrist injury, this ligament injury, and they're not related at all, right? Like none of these are related,
No.
correlated injuries in any way. But this is his fourth season?
Yeah.
I think fourth full season, and he has been out for a good majority of games in terms of like the first season and this season. And if you're the Bengals now, you've paid him, but
Yeah.
is he the kind of guy though that you're like, hey, the highs are so high that we're just gonna, it is what it is because like players get hurt in the NFL.
Yeah, I think like players get hurt. I would say that like if he had the same injury so coming over and over again, you'd be nervous. But I think he is very good when he's on the field, and his mentality, everything about it. He's worth having as your quarterback, and it's just I think it's a bit of unfortunate events. I mean, because you look at him you're like, oh, he's been hurt all year. Like, well, I think he was kind of coming off the calf injury, and you saw him like take off, and the Bengals started looking really good. And then it just feels like the wrist was kind of a freak thing.
It was totally, it was not like a,
So I mean, I think
Correlated at all.
I don't think it's going to be those things where like he'll never get there because he's always going to be injured. I could be wrong though. I mean, but I just don't see it because it's not at least like the same injury. Like with Tony Romo, for example, he was always a back injury thing.
yeah.
And so it was always a matter of time before that back was going to give out on him, like it did. But like I don't know, it just feels like maybe he's a little bit snake bit.
Tony Romo did have a lot of those back injuries, but remember McCaffrey had a lot of injuries.
Yeah,
None of them-
now he seems fine.
But now he seems fine. But maybe it's because the Panthers aren't giving it to him 75 times a game, and that's all
maybe
that they
that's the
do.
difference.
His work rate is, I mean, he's getting the ball a lot. He's getting touches, but it's not the same kind of work rate. I'm not really sure how to describe it. But I think Joe Burrow, though, he's kind of strikes me now as like the Bengals window. The windows in the NFL now are extremely short.
Yeah.
A lot shorter than they used to be. Because remember, we're asking last week, are the Bills, is their window closed with this current core? I don't think it's a Josh Allen thing, but I said when Burrow got to the Super Bowl and didn't win, it's difficult to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And that Dan Marino, when he went to his first and lost, thought he was just going to be back.
Yeah.
Never got back.
Yeah.
Again. And Joe Burrow kind of seems like that kind of a dude, right? Like
Well,
he's really, really good.
I think he could be that kind of dude because of the franchise he plays for.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
It's
what it
like-
really comes down to.
And-
He's stuck in a franchise where like that may have been their shot. I don't see the Bengals as one of those teams that has year in year out competitiveness to where they could always really have a shot at. They feel like they're a hot team and they're dead. And it may just be that I don't know what it is.
Because there's a lot of really good receivers on that team right now. They did a great job surrounding him with guys. They're getting Jamar Chase. And I think with running back, though, I mean,
they have lots of line problems though.
they do have, well, they do. But again,
They had
they
that last year too.
They did. They've gotten
And the
to
year
the
before
Super
that.
Bowl with it. So, but there's time to address those things. But I think
Yeah.
they've paid him obviously. But
Sure.
what happens if some of these other guys what happens if some of these other guys don't stick around? Like if Jamar Chase is hurt or doesn't want to be there or things, because if you just have Jamar Chase and then you lose other guys on the team like T. Higgins and other of those.
Just hope they draft well.
Yeah, you hope that they draft well.
Well,
which
the benefit of losing your quarterback at this point is you're going to lose a bunch of games, and so now you've already got a franchise quarterback, so
who
you're going to
is
get
the
higher
Bengals
draft picks.
backup? Do you know?
No, I don't even know.
Anybody
who
know?
Who
I
came
have
in
no
for him last
idea.
week? I don't even know. Did we
I
look it
can't
up?
even. Yeah, please look it up. I don't even remember.
I'm going to look it up.
I don't even remember.
Only we had a device in our pockets that could tell
Maybe.
us these things.
Yeah. But And then you have, of course, in that division, the Browns, who we said the defense is probably going to carry them. Myles Garrett looks unstoppable. If they can get serviceable quarterback play, they can just keep winning. Who is it?
Jake Browning.
Wow. Who the hell is
I don't
that?
even know who he is.
I said, wow, like as if I knew. I have no idea who that is. Cool.
If you watch Jake Browning play college football, please let me know. Did
Yeah,
he play in
please.
Washington?
No, that was Jake Locker. I think that's who he was terrible, by the way. Jake Locker was like a super huge bust.
Jake Browning.
Jake Browning. I don't know. Whenever we do backup talk, I'm always like,
I'm always confused.
I always want to go
I
Chase
was right. He
Daniel.
did go to Washington.
Really?
Look at that, man.
All right, cool.
Bonus points for me.
Sounds great to me. That you could have told me any school and I would have totally bought it. Except in HBCU, I would not have believed that.
Yeah.
But I would not have believed you. I said, oh, he went to like Brock Purdy going to Iowa State. Totally sure. Right. Totally.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And it's like George Kittle's a great tight end, went to Iowa. Yeah. Sure. That sounds great. Because didn't Sam Laporta go to Iowa?
Iowa.
Of course he did. Because I mean, like white tight ends, of course, are going to go to Iowa. That's just how it works. That's how, and linebackers too. That's how Iowa makes their money. Kirk Ferentz is still employed,
That's why they score no points,
God.
but they somehow get people drafted every year.
so I can't do Iowa football. I just can't. I can't. It's just too bad. It's great defense,
Yeah.
but it's also like watching a team before the forward pass was invented. And I can't do it anymore. Look at this McCaffrey just waiting his time. Oh, look at that. How did he get out of that? Come on, now touchdown.
God.
Okay. Hey,
This game's a beatdown.
for the two people that are watching, Christian McCaffrey is very good at football. So you can take that to the bank if there is some type of a betting line on Christian McCaffrey being good. That's it.
Yeah.
So let's get away from football for a second. Let's talk Thanksgiving because I know that some people have like traditions around the holidays are sometimes a little bit controversial,
Okay. Yeah.
right? Because
I
people
would say they're
argument
I would say they're controversial, but everyone has their own.
they're perfect fodder for what people want out of their sports content today, which is I'm right and you're wrong.
Right.
So we're going to do that
That's
right
fair.
now. We're
That's
going to do
fair.
this right now. So now when I met you and your family, you guys have much of the same type of things, right? We have turkey, but we have ham as well. That was the first time I'd ever been to a Thanksgiving that had both.
Yeah.
And it felt gluttonous in the meat department. But I guess in thinking about you guys were Italian, so like meat is kind of,
Sure, maybe.
Same
I
thing.
think that, and yeah, my wife loves ham.
yes. Well, the ham and the ham for me always
And it's so
felt
easy.
Easter. Yeah, you're right. It is very easy. So you have the turkey and the ham, and then you guys do stuffing, which is like more meat, where it's
meat.
like sausage, beef, the giblets, which I can
Ham.
get by, and ham, and also red
Red
wine.
wine. Yeah.
Which is hilarious because it's like, wow, we have turkey and ham. Oh, by the way, we're going to put more of that shit in the
In the
stuffing.
turkey.
Yes,
Yes.
in the stuffing. And
There's a lot of meat going on.
I'm a big stuffing guy when it comes down to it, but there are certain things that I feel like you have to have. Like if there is an item, like let's take the spread that we had today, which we had a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Is there something in there that if it wasn't there, you'd be fine?
If it wasn't there.
No, you can't say the vegetable. That's not fair.
No.
No, don't say that. But I'm saying like is there an item, a traditional sort of item that
Well, it was one that we did not have that I think was a traditional item. That I
Yes.
think I think we may have been all fine with. That's cranberry sauce.
I thought about it
It's
at one
nice
point.
to have, but it's not needed.
By the way, the coach is here, so
All right.
he was going to join us tonight, but some sicknesses in the family. He has got young ones, just like I do, and you used to have. Your young ones are now old ones or older
Mm-hmm.
ones, and so he has been, and he's not feeling well. Actually, he took a nap with his kids, and now feels like crap.
Mm-hmm. Sounds
So
great. I could use a nap.
That also tracks, though, doesn't it? Like
Yeah.
when you take a nap and then you feel worse.
That's kind of the worst. The one thing my only complaint about the Cowboys being on at 4:30 today instead of the earlier game was
wanted to
that
take
I
a nap,
couldn't
right?
take my nap after eating all the meat that we
No,
stuffed
I did
in
take
us
a nap.
today.
No, I did take a nap because
Yeah.
I fell asleep for like 20 minutes, and I felt kind of good.
Yeah, well, you gotta keep that nap under an hour. That's the trick.
Nice little sweet. Although they tell you that you
Under
need
an
to take
hour
like
over
an hour and a half.
under an hour over 3.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna wake up feeling too tired because you're gonna get like into the right level of sleep and not have enough real sleep.
So you mentioned the cranberry sauce thing, right?
Yeah.
Now that is an item that I normally can go without, but I think your wife makes a really good homemade
She does. It's
cranberry
good.
sauce, and then so that's a
I
little
never
bit,
had that before though until like and I wish I could say that was like her. Like it was always, she's always made it. We found that like from friends. We lived in Colorado, and some friends made it one time,
Why
and we're
wouldn't you
like, "That
take
was
credit
really
for that?
good.
Just take credit for it. Who cares?
That was really good." And they're like, "Yeah, it's really easy." And you're like, "Oh man,
People plagiarize things all the time.
yeah." And
Hey,
so now we make it, and it's actually really good. I never had that kind of cranberry sauce. I really like it. But
Hey,
I can
Brad,
also do without it.
did you put any money in any of the games today? Let us know what some of your picks are and if you actually won anything. Because poor Cleve put money on the Commanders for some reason, and they didn't. He's like, they needed to score it.
You think they were going to cover? What was the spread?
It was, I don't know. No, it was kind of like, daily fantasy stuff.
Oh, okay.
Which I could never do that, betting football. But anyway, so I think that's one of them. But a lot of people can go without stuffing. Now, I think for you, stuffing has been like such a specialized thing.
It's such a specialized stuffing. And so I would do this. I would agree with you.
Yes.
For the grand majority of like stuffings I've had outside of the one that we made today, I find them to be meh.
Yeah.
Like they don't necessarily add anything. I could not say that about this stuffing.
They're
That's only because
fillers.
it's so unique.
Eating on Thanksgiving to me is like what used to be. Today it was not. We only had one serving, and that was it. I was very surprised.
Full too.
Because normally it's like
second meal.
it's like a mental Olympics, because I like to do an earlier time, like 1:30, because then you eat, you feel full, you take that nap that you're talking about. Because it used to be we could watch the Lions fall asleep and watch the Lions lose, and so we didn't get that this time. But normally I like to pace myself, because if you go too big on like all the filler stuff, and that's why a lot of people I think don't like stuffing, because it fills. So
yeah.
let's see. Coach has not put any money, but he thought about. Oh, see, I said that too. Did I not? Did I not say that when we came back from halftime? Is there a bet? Is it because the Lions scored a touchdown? I said, is there a money line bet in the second half for the Lions? And thank God I did not do that.
Yeah, no kidding.
I was just curious, because sometimes Brad will.
They were close. I mean, they were an onside kick away from.
He'll sometimes do like ridiculous parlays that he places like $3 on, and if he wins, he gets like $8 million because it's such a ridiculous parlay. And he's like,
"That's my kind of game. I like that."
I know, right? Well, that's kind
if you
of
could
the
have
way.
bet. I wonder if there was like a prop bet on what song Dolly Parton was singing at the halftime with
There
the
had to
Cowboys
be.
game.
Let's talk about that for that. That's actually great, because there has been a lot of comparison. Some white rapper, which is just insane. If he's not Eminem, that's just insane. Jack Harlow is his name. He did the halftime show in Green Bay, and
It
they
was
had him.
very underwhelming.
They had him coming out of an igloo.
Yeah, it looked like it was made by like a high school drama company.
Oh, it's awful. And some people were like, "That's artistic." I was like, "Dude, don't even sell me on this as artistic. It sucked." And then, I mean, I realized Dolly Parton is Dolly Parton. She's ancient
Iconic.
and old, and she's iconic, yes. But I'm saying, like, I can understand if young people look at her.
You were going for ancient and old. I was going for iconic. I feel like we were not on the same wavelength on that one.
She can be both, right? She can be old and irrelevant in the sense that, like, I don't know how many younger people know who she is, but you can't say that she didn't come out and put on a show.
Yeah.
Right? And isn't that, like, how can you as an artist sign off on, let me come out of an igloo in Detroit?
And just kind of stand in the middle of a white tarp and rap for 20 minutes.
Yes. And
to the same beat.
It's like, right. And then Dolly Parton comes out there and she does exactly what she's supposed to do. She plays the hits.
Plays the hits. Yep.
Right. Plays the hits. Jolene, 9 to 5. And I can't remember. Oh, she was.
Plays We Are the Champions, We Will Rock You
right.
from Queen.
Which I'm still disappointed that Jerry Jones didn't come out of the stage with a Lombardi trophy and says, "The script has been written, boys." Like, that's what you said he should have done. I think that would have been hilarious if he had like taken
Spoiler
that.
alert.
Spoiler alert. Yes, the script has been written, and we are going to win the Super Bowl.
We're getting number 6 this year.
But when it comes to Thanksgiving, I'm very much like, I love the coziness of the holiday, because like the house is warm. You're cooking, especially if you're cooking. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes it's nice to go to somebody else's house when they're doing all the work. But the biggest downfall of that is you never come home with leftovers for the most part.
That's right.
Because
Leftovers are my favorite part of Thanksgiving.
yes, that's why tomorrow is going to be.
Which also
killer.
comes back why the stuffing that we make cannot be left out of the meal. Unlike the other stuffings, I think can be left away.
Yes, because so that's the other thing. Is like when you're constructing what I think is like the best leftover of all time, and it is the sandwich. You have to have the stuffing in there, because if the turkey can't do it all by itself.
Yeah, and it can taste kind of weird the second day.
Which is funny that we eat it, because we're like, but I know people who have like mac and cheese
Oh, interesting.
at their, and I was like, I never considered that, but like, what would that do?
That's just so much. I think it like
Well, you'd have to take something out.
you wouldn't poop for like a week.
I might not poop for a week now. I don't even know. So, you're right. Brad astutely saying that Dolly Parton is, I wasn't saying she was a national treasure, but like, I think about like the average people who are watching like these games, right? And I'm like, she is definitely not like in her prime star today. It was like I said the same thing about Cher when she was on the Thanksgiving parade.
Oh, I missed that. We were outside.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, you didn't miss anything. You missed her lips not moving and somehow she was singing because she said so much plastic surgery. But Dolly Parton at least is doing the thing, right?
Yeah.
And I thought it was ballsy as hell where she comes out there in a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader outfit. I'm
At
like, you know what?
77, it was ballsy as hell.
Good for you, girl.
And you know what though? I mean, again, we were talking about this because we said how we were amazed. And clearly, she wasn't lip syncing, which is always nice. And I was telling them how like her album Rockstar or whatever had just come out, and I was like, I'm gonna listen to some of these covers and see how it sounds because I've always kind of liked Dolly Parton.
That's what they were, right? They were covers.
It's all covers, yeah. And I was just telling them like how amazed I am that her voice is so good for someone at 77 to record an album. Like I'm sure, I mean, maybe they'd use auto-tune, I don't know, but like
They probably do.
I mean, to some degree, but like she sounds pretty good, and she sounded pretty good tonight. Like I'm impressed that her vocal cords have held up over that amount of time. Like to be able to kind of still do it, that's impressive.
And it made perfect sense for it being like in Dallas too, like Nashville, not that far away, and you know you kind of have like a country music in Nashville or whatever. So. And there is my lovely wife having put our child to bed. She's ignoring me right now. She's walking away. So that's, par for the course. At the end of a very long day. By the way, if anybody else, Brad, if you're looking for something to bet, the Egg Bowl is on right now. Ole Miss and Mississippi State. And Ole Miss is up 3-0 in the third quarter.
Ooh,
Are you kidding me
not
with
a
that?
barn
Never mind.
burner
Don't
for
watch
those
that.
people.
Do not watch that. Please don't watch that. And this game isn't any better
really
at
isn't.
21-3.
Blowout.
Yeah. So we were doing this watch party because I thought it would be fun to just have zero agenda, nothing to talk about, and just kind of shoot the shit. Because, like, really, isn't that what you do when you sit with your friends and talk about football?
Yeah.
Isn't that why everybody likes Tony Romo? Because Tony Romo, which, by the way, his coming out of halftime talking about Dolly Parton.
It was pretty
oh,
epic.
my God. It was such a
He
crazy
kept trying to
thing.
bait and answer to say something
Yeah. And guess what?
controversial.
This is a snooze fest. So is your screen name. Feel free to get out of the feed anytime you would like, my man. This is a free country. Anyway, so Christian McCaffrey looks like he is getting his...
Maybe he's talking. Maybe he's talking. He's
Nah, he's talking to
PNW
us.
made. So
I hope he's
Pacific
talking to us.
Northwest. Maybe the snooze fest is the
talking
game
to us.
he's watching right now because he's tired of watching Seattle
could
get
be.
their ass kicked.
It's a free country. He could be talking to us. He could be talking about the
Oh, I
game.
mean,
I
we're
have no
pretty
idea.
boring. So
Hey, we are boring. I mean, I'm not even here saying that we're not breaking any new ground here. So
this isn't OnlyFans, all right, man. You can go somewhere else if you're looking for that.
could be. You could, if it was an OnlyFans, you could show your Rick and Morty slippers that I
I could
got
still
you.
show
You
my
could
Rick and Morty slippers. Should I show my Rick
Yeah,
and
you
Morty
could.
slippers?
Yeah, but this is an OnlyFans. That would be kind of weird. Iceman and Coach OnlyFans. I'm not really sure what that would do. And yeah, hard pass on the Egg Bowl. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Make this even more boring. Look at that. I'm telling you. Yes. All right. I love Rick and Morty.
Girls
It's one of
make
my
her wear
favorite things.
floppy slippers with.
Do you think that Pete Carroll thinks he's intimidating the referee when he's chewing gum that fiercely in his face? You don't think so? Oh, he's definitely over the line.
Yeah, all of them.
Does the whole thing, is this the ball? So how does that work? I forget.
He has to have one part of him behind the line.
That's right. Take my. That's right. Take my money. That's right. Hey, like I said, I don't care. Like people can say like, "Oh, you're boring." Well, guess what? You're not putting out the content. You have no idea. So go ahead and call me boring. I don't really.
I
give a
didn't
crap.
promise you entertainment.
No, I didn't promise you anything. As a matter of fact, I promised you that two guys are going to watch a football game and talk about the most random shit. So go eat a turkey sandwich if that's how you feel. I'm cool. I'm totally cool. Anyway, so we were talking about Thanksgiving. Well, I like to watch football too, and I kind of like too that they have given us 3 games now because it used to be traditionally you get the 2
games,
and that was all you got. And I like the fact that so. Hey man, I couldn't tell. You got to make it more clear. You got to say this game is a snooze fest. You said this is a snooze fest. It sounds like you're talking about me. I'm sorry, dude.
See, I'm trying to help you out there, man. See, I knew I was trying to. I called it, didn't I?
You
See,
did call
You get
it.
too mad at him. You get mad
Hey.
at people too soon.
Hey man, and today, hey, you're typing. I can't get. Why am I getting so worked up? Because man, it's a free country. That's why I'm getting so worked. No, I'm not.
gosh.
I'm only kidding, man.
He's
I'm
doing
only
it for the
kidding.
clicks. Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all the 4 clicks that we're getting.
He's
Sure,
right.
sure.
He's trying to get a 5th.
I know. I'm getting worked up. Actually, you can ask the coach. I don't get too worked up all that often. So I saw the snooze fest, and coach likes it when I get a little fired up because it's not something that I do all that often. So, hey,
Yes,
you're talking about the
both
game.
the Egg Bowl and this game are both snooze
Egg Bowl
fests.
is crap. This is crap.
Well, maybe Gino will come back.
This feed is
PNW
crap.
made. I wonder if PNW made is a. Are you a Seahawks fan? Do you think you got a shot?
No, I think he's all right.
back?
I think he's
That's what I wonder. What if I wonder if he thinks he can come back. Maybe Gino can get some magic in him in the
Here's the
second
thing
half.
about like
They're playing at home. They can get loud there.
There you go. Peanut. Wait a minute. Oh, really? So, okay. So that
There you go. So he's not a believer. That's fair.
it is fair, but also like. So if you're this is the fundamental thing that happens with NFL franchises when you get to this point, because they moved on from Russ and now you've got Pete Carroll, who's the second oldest coach in the league, I think, because Bill Belichick may be the oldest. They're 1-2, whatever, and they kind of had to move on to Gino. And Gino, you can say that he's not it. I don't think Gino is the kind of guy. He's not the franchise guy. They're going to have to figure it out at some point.
They really
right?
are. I feel like they're just kind of like trying to see what they can run with while they're winning, and so they're kind of like just running with it. But I feel like there's no plan.
Yes, there is. That's
so
a good
I would be
point.
concerned if I were a Seahawks fan because I'd be like, "What's the plan here?"
Yes.
You know,
No, that is a yes. That is. Let me put this comment back up there again because I think it's important. It is very fair, and especially when you say born and raised, things like that. I mean, that to me holds credentials because if you've been watching this team your whole life, however long or short your life is, then you have a perspective, right? Because if you've seen the good times and now you're seeing this, you're like, okay, this is not a plan. Like I will admit to you, in today's NFL, you have to have a plan. And we have gotten on teams a lot who don't look at the Falcons, right? The Falcons don't have a clear plan at quarterback because they're not putting out anything competent that can get the ball to these other guys. I mean, even when Desmond Ridder has good games, it's not looking good, right? They don't have a plan. The Colts haven't had a plan
Or you
forever.
think maybe the plan is they go with an average quarterback and they're going to put all this talent around him, but then they don't get the ball to that talent.
So he's making this comment about how he got paid and now, and he's how he got paid. I'm not sure that that's fair.
Is that a muff?
Yeah. I mean, the 49ers also, would you say, my man, that the 49ers are clearly better than the Seahawks in their current construction? And that's not me taking a shot at the Seahawks at all. It's just saying the
49ers are better than every team in the league in the current
just about,
construction.
right?
I don't know if
Except
there's anyone better than them.
Eagles probably. I think.
I guess the Eagles beat them,
the Eagles did beat them.
right?
Yes.
Have they? No, they haven't played them.
They haven't played them yet, but I'm saying the Eagles, I think, are
They beat them in the playoffs last year, right?
what the strength of
No, they did, but that didn't count because they had no quarterback.
the strength of what makes the Eagles and 49ers so good is when they're both at almost full capacity, they are so good at running exactly what they do, right? The Eagles are good because they play within the strengths of everything that they have. Sure. When everybody talks about the brotherly shove or whatever, it's like, well, you know why they run that all the time?
'Cause it works.
Because they're damn good at it, and it works. And that's, I think, what the 49ers do with all their weapons, right? And this is why I think a lot of teams fall behind because they're not doing that.
Right.
I don't know if you were to ask, I don't know, again, if you're Seahawks fan, what is the strength of the Seahawks? What is their identity as a team? Because if Gino isn't going to light it up, I don't think that it's fair to say that he got his paycheck and now he's showing why he's a career backup. I mean, he did have a great year last year, but I think that he happened to get paid because it was timing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the same. It's essentially a different way of saying what we said though in the summer when I said he was going to regress to the mean.
And he has,
because I said that earlier, and maybe he hasn't, but I mean he's been okay this year, but not nearly as good as he was last year. And eventually he's going to look like the quarterback that he's been for 7 years. But if you maybe put the right pieces around him, I think Seattle's always prided itself on its defense as kind of being their identity, I think. And I think their defense is decent.
Yeah, it is.
But
they're not showing up in this game. These primetime games are so bad. Now, Brad talking about how Gino's in a weird tier of quarterbacks where isn't quite what you want, but also it's you're in that.
What else? But there's nothing else better right now, so you just kind of stay with it. That's what I think Seattle's doing. Is they're like, I don't know, what do we do?
But I say that every year when franchises or fans want to get rid of their quarterback, it's you have two choices a lot of times. The Giants just went through this. With Daniel Jones. Yeah. And I get it.
I don't know that you're helping your cause though, because it's you really think paying Daniel Jones was the right call.
No. What I'm saying is they were forced into the choice of, okay, we're gonna pay. We either have to pay him or start over.
Right.
And the starting over part is
hard to do.
Very hard to do. Now, I would argue to you that the Giants really weren't in a good position to start. We're in a good position to start over because that was an aberration last year. So if you're going to start over, this year would have been the year to start over. And now they have a 40 million guy and a team that's not very good.
I mean, I get that, but I guess you could also say, like, if you're a team like the Seahawks, right, and you're like, well, do I pay Geno Smith, big money, knowing that I may only get average to above average play out of him over the length of the contract, because it's just hard to believe that he's gonna just a light switch is flipped for him, or do I risk paying less money to an equally average quarterback?
Yes,
as a bridge, and maybe that's the decision point where I guess if you're a fan of that franchise, that would be maybe what you're frustrated about. Is you're like, well, I mean, you could get this play out of a career backup for a lot less money, and then you can position yourself for a great player out of the draft, or maybe nowadays it's not unheard of to get a quarterback who's good out of another team.
No, it's true.
So I don't know. It's just a different thought process there.
Or out of the 7th round.
Or the last pick of the draft.
Yeah, so
for San Francisco somehow.
The thing about Pete Carroll, too, is, I mean, how many years does he have left? It's kind of like the same thing with Belichick, right? How many years does he have left? See, you know what
I look at this and I'm like, hey, man, just want to remind PNW made here that as a Dallas Cowboys fan, I would happily have had a Super Bowl in the last 30 years, and I have not seen one. So at least you got that going for you. You got something out of it.
If I may go back to our boy PNW, I want to let's start over. Let's start our relationship over, because I got a little worked up. I will agree, but one of the things, Mike Shanahan looking pretty good, actually.
He is looking pretty good.
Yeah, he always looks tan, by the way, like he's just been on vacation. But if we can start over, I want to say that when you talk about 31 years of ups and downs and stuff, when Coach and I, now Mike is not a regular on what we do, but Coach and I, when we started this, we were like, the every fan is our fan, right? The passionate fan, the guy or girl who just wants to talk about their sport, their team. And it's like you come home, from a hard day's work or a hard week's work, and you're like, man, these two are just like me. They're not like, I'm not a journalist. We're not celebrities. We're just two dudes who have equipment who like to talk about sports and football more specifically. And so I like hearing that. I like hearing that you have all these ups and downs with this team, and that you're looking at this team and you're like, I wish they would move on, because that's what being a fan is all about. Doesn't mean the team's going to do that. But it's what a fan is all about, is feeling passionate, fanatic. It's what is short for fanatic.
And it's interesting, though, because I think some of these teams, these owners, it's easier to be comfortable and risk averse and not move on.
Oh, 100%.
Now, changing coaches too often is not the right answer either, because you see enough teams that fail at that one. But you're right. That's the key is realizing, when is it time for a change? Is it a time for a change in Seattle? Maybe after the Russell Wilson era is over and that stuff, and maybe it was a time for a change in Seattle. Maybe it was a time to move on from Pete Carroll. Sometimes you kind of hope that at that stage, like a coach, especially one in his 70s like that, maybe just decides like, hey, it's a time for a change. I'm going to bow out. And it makes it easier on everybody, because then you don't have to fire them, and you can go look for somebody, and you have the time to. Hey, coach is like, hey man, I'm not gonna be done. I'm done after this season.
Pete Carroll strikes me as the coach who would probably bow out.
You would think. I think he would have done it by now if he was gonna do that.
Maybe, but he might still think he has it.
Well, he's got the fountain of youth going on. I mean, he seems like he's even pretty healthy.
What was the one Levitard lookalike? Was was like that college professor that. You ask about the nature. You ask your wife about the nature of her relationship, and she's like, "Oh, that was a billion years ago." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's yes." So, but the Patriots are going through that now.
Yeah,
with Bill Belichick.
Well, that's a good question. Like Bill Belichick, I think this is a good segue into your team, into the Patriots, because they're kind of in that same era that Seahawks are in.
Yes,
in the sense of they're coming off a lot of wins and some Super Bowl appearances. Obviously, more wins for you guys than some other teams. But you have a coach who was good, who put together really good football teams for a long time. The question is, what do you do if you're the Patriots? Do you look at Bill Belichick and say, hey, man, I appreciate all the work you did. It wasn't all Tom Brady. You had a huge play in it, but maybe it's time to change.
So you're hitting on the nuance of this that I like to make sure gets in the conversation, because you talked about Bill Belichick putting together these teams. Now, for much of the majority of the Patriots' early run, let's say the first decade of their run, Bill Belichick wasn't the GM.
Yeah.
They had guys, Scott Pioli, right? They had guys who were going out, who were personnel guys, who would be doing the draft analysis, the scouting and stuff like that. And when it moved to Bill Belichick doing that, you can question a lot of the draft moves. You can question a lot of the free agent guys that they have brought in. And I think that Bill Belichick, the head coach, has not lost a step in today's NFL. Like, I don't know if he has lost, like, sometimes you can see it, right? You can see some of these coaches who it's like, man, they're like Sean Payton. He was like, oh, I can come back and do this.
Yeah.
The game in a couple of years had already like jumped leaps and bounds. And he's like, all right, I've got to figure this shit out because I can't. So, but Belichick, the GM, is it fair to say that that guy should be fired? Yeah. I think that the GM, if I'm Bob Kraft,
They have not drafted well in a while.
no, they have not. Now, they've had a couple of good pieces here and there, but they really haven't. And I think that, and what's up to Jonah, who is our super fan, who is a little under the weather. So I hope you're feeling a little bit better, my man. But thanks for stopping by. But if I'm the Patriots, though, if I'm Bob Kraft is also in that position too, because as an owner, he's old, like Jerry Jones, right? He's in his 70s, and he's coming off of a ridiculous run with this team. He doesn't want to go out as an owner this way or in a bad way.
Sure.
And I can see him making a panic move to try to get back to those glory days. And what I don't think Bob Kraft and a lot of people realize is that there really isn't any getting back to it. Not that quickly. I don't think that there is. I really don't.
It was just an unprecedented run. I just don't think it could be done again.
Exactly. And
No, I don't think anyone can do that again.
no, there's no way. Like Mahomes, will Mahomes win 7 Super Bowls with Andy Reid?
No.
I just don't think so.
I think it's not because either one of them are not talented enough. It's just so difficult. There's so many breaks that could just go.
Even the Patriots had a 10-year gap in winning Super Bowls. So even that franchise over 20 years, there was a 10-year gap in which they didn't sniff the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl. So I think, I mean, they went to 2 of them, obviously, but I think that it's fair that like it's hard to win in the NFL. But if I'm the Patriots, if I'm Bob Kraft, I'm trying to be reasonable about this, and I say to Bill, look, we're going to bring a football guy in here. We're going to bring a guy to do the GM stuff. I don't want you to worry about that stuff. You'll have say in that. I don't want you to worry about this. And let him coach. If he doesn't like that, he certainly can leave.
He can retire. Yeah.
He can leave because a lot of people are saying, or there's a lot of rumors that like he's going to go to Washington. He's going to go to the Chargers.
Oh, why would you take either of those?
And I agree. And I don't know if you're the Chargers moving on from Brandon Staley, getting a 72-year-old head coach, like, is that the next move for the franchise? I mean, I guess that Bill Belichick could do more with Justin Herbert than what's being done, but
why can't Belichick just be like, I'm 72. I'm good.
He is quoted as saying he's not going to coach into his 70s, and here we are coaching into his 70s.
Why? Why not just call it good?
It is the ego. No, it's the ego of people like Bill Belichick.
Get your feet up, man.
Bill
Watch
Belichick
TV.
may seem like the kind of guy who doesn't care about what people say about him, but he cares about what people say about him because people are saying that it was all Tom and not you. And he's he's doing the Jerry Jones thing, the Jerry Jones GM thing. He's trying to win without Jimmy Johnson, right?
Yeah.
And as the GM, he's trying to be the GM to do that. And it's like, at some point, the pursuit becomes unrealistic and you need to just move on. And if Bill takes that job, then you bring in a football guy and see what happens. The next thing you have to do with the Patriots is ask yourself about the quarterback. Because as our boy PNW was talking about, if Geno ain't in, I don't think Mac Jones is it either. So, like, who do you move on to? The Patriots are going to be bad. Like, they are bad. They're going to have a high draft pick. Like, what happens if they get the number 1 pick? And you get Caleb Williams. Now what? I'm not saying that's a guarantee.
Is Caleb Williams number 1 pick?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
What do you think about the guy out of Washington? Penix.
He could be.
Because he
big
played
Penix energy, as Desmond Howard said
He's
on
a
live
pocket guy.
television.
He's a pocket passer.
He is.
He played for, who did he play for before he went to Indiana, right?
Yeah.
So like he's got a ton of starts. He's kind of like that Purdy model, right? Of you get a player who's got a ton of starts under his belt, performing at a high level over many years in college football across multiple conferences. You know, could he be that kind of stepping guy? And now I don't even know if he'll go in the first round, which is crazy to me. But is he going to be that guy? Is he the next guy who falls to a team in the second round who doesn't necessarily need a quarterback. It just goes. But yeah, good question, Caleb. But I took you off your thing.
See, we're back, by the way. He and I are friends again. We're good. I said big Phoenix energy. We're good. Okay. Glad to see you back, man. I'm glad we could, get our friendship back.
I like Penix. I think he's awesome.
No, I agree.
But I wonder, like, and Caleb Williams, he seems fine. I feel bad for the guy being stuck at USC and having a coach who doesn't know how to put a defense on the field.
Caleb Williams' skill set is very similar. It's not like Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes is himself. He's in a tier. He's like Lamar Jackson. He's like in a tier all by himself. But the kinds of things that make Caleb Williams special and what could be special at the NFL level is how good he is. It's like Aaron Rodgers. How good he is when he starts to, ad-lib. Not even ad-lib, but like create, right? When things don't go the way that it's scripted,
right?
And he has had games where he's thrown interceptions, but that's kind of what you get. I mean, Mahomes still throws interceptions as well, so you're going to have that. And I think that they would probably be better suited to take a guy like him, but I could totally see them taking anybody. But.
Well, I would definitely say that. I mean, if they get the top pick or even the top 2 picks, top 3 picks, the fact that they've already benched Mac Jones this year, to me feels like they're not married to him. I mean, at this point, they're going to move on. They know what they have and they don't like it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be benching their starting quarterback.
Oh yeah,
you don't bench a young starting quarterback unless you don't intend to continue to play with him.
I agree. I think at this point, because they have sat him, it's like, and we'll get to your question, PNW, in a second, but they have benched him a couple of times, kind of like a hockey goalie. In the NFL, you can do that a couple of times, but that's it. And the Tua had that happen with Fitzpatrick, but you were putting in Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was a guy who you knew could come in, a veteran.
Yeah.
Bailey Zappi ain't it either. So
no, that's the thing. Exactly. Like that's why I'm like, I don't know why you even.
By the way, though,
what does it do other than let Mac Jones know that you're signaling to teams that he's going to be available in the offseason?
That's correct. Here's the thing, Mac Jones should already know that.
Yeah,
he's going to be available. He might be the Patriots' backup, but I don't think he's it. So PNW wants us to move on to college football.
Okay.
Now the college football rankings. So my boy, I assume sorry if you're not a boy, but my man. We do a college football show, or we do a football show every Friday. Me and Coach, who's not here, but we do it every Friday. I don't know if we're going to do it tomorrow because I'm out with with family and stuff like that. But we do talk about college football a lot. So if you haven't checked that out, you can get our opinion on everything college football for the last however many weeks, 12 weeks or something like that. There's a playlist on our YouTube channel for you to go back and check it out. But you asked about the college football rankings and what do we think about this? So you're not as much of a college guy as I am, but the college football playoff ranking, right? I had a different opinion about the way that the rankings came out. Now I think it's Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Washington. Yeah. Florida State 5. Yeah. So when the original rankings came out, I said the kitchen setup. Yeah. This is not my house, so the setup will be a lot different. Trust me. Mike has been in the studio that I have in my house, and you can see what that looks like with nice, Alexa lights and stuff like that. It looks a lot more professional than this. But what's funny is maybe this is going to be the thing that people like. It's like, hey, these guys look like they don't know what they're doing. So let me go ahead and subscribe. So
this is the holiday setup.
It is the holiday setup, and I'll be doing this at Christmas. I did buy a Christmas tree for the background, so we're doing that. I wanted to do like a 6-footer, and my wife was like, absolutely not. So I was like, okay, well, I tried. So. The college football ranking. So when they first came out, I said that I thought that, I thought that Michigan had an outside shot of being number one because of how dominant they looked, right? I didn't take into consideration the resume part of it. And so when the first rankings came out, Ohio State was number one at the time. They had beaten Ohio State on the road, and it was a good win. It was probably one of the best wins of the year, right? And then as the weeks go on, what the committee is supposed to do
Ohio State. Who'd you say they beat? Who on the road?
They beat Notre Dame.
Notre Dame,
right?
Yeah.
And at the time, that was a good win. Mm-hmm. It has since become not a great win. And if you look at their resume, they have dropped a little bit. Mm-hmm. Michigan has not played. They played Penn State, right? Yeah. And Penn State was a ranked team at the time, so you give them credit for that game. But I can understand the committee looking at the rest of it and saying, like, they didn't play anybody. But the thing that they have done, which I think is really important, is they have taken care of business against the teams that they should beat, like handily done that. And I think style points matter. I was never on the Florida State run. I thought Washington should have been in there from the start because Florida State struggled against Boston College. They struggled against some other teams like Pitt. And Washington has beaten a ton of ranked teams, including Oregon, who's the team that was right behind them. So I thought the committee was doing Washington disservice. And I think also, I don't want to say having a personal vendetta against how great the Pac-12 has looked in their final season, but it seemed that way. And then Jordan Travis gets hurt. I think it's Jordan Travis. I think that's his name. I can't remember. I think Jordan is his first name, but Florida State quarterback, right? He's out for the year. And people have been asking, what does the committee do with that? And I said, Washington has to jump them because Washington keeps beating good teams.
Right.
They keep beating ranked teams.
Right.
And they're going to continue to beat ranked teams, right? They're going to play Washington State, going to take care of business, and then they're going to probably get Oregon
in the Pac-12. That's going to be the trickiest part.
And Oregon has been playing lights out, but they have a tough game tomorrow against Oregon State, the Civil War.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to win that game. So like the Pac-12 has just been great. And I don't think that Washington got enough love. I'm more convinced now that Washington is one of the top 4 teams if they continue to win. Yeah. And Penix has been one of the reasons why. He's played very, very well at quarterback. They have great receiving core. And I mean, a bunch of guys from this team are going to get drafted.
Yeah, I think it's again, I don't follow as close as you all do, but I just think I think some of it's also they project where they think it's going to be with their rankings to kind of put people in a position to move around.
Yeah.
And so I don't get too worked up on the rankings now because there's just so much important stuff that's going to happen between now and then, right? So someone's going to lose on Ohio, Michigan. One of those 2 teams is going to lose, and they're going to be a 1-loss team.
I've been saying that. If you look at,
know what I mean? Like people
rankings,
keep forgetting that, but they have to play each other still, and they haven't played each other. And then you have the Big Ten championship, which would be them playing someone else. So that gets kind of weird.
Iowa, Michigan,
Right.
Ohio State's going to play Iowa in the Big 12,
right. So you get
Big Ten
that,
championship game.
And then you get the problem with Washington, where they should handle business against Washington State, but then they get to play in the Pac-12 championship against a team that likely Oregon, who they've already beaten. But then again, now it gives Oregon a chance to give Washington a loss if it comes back a bad direction for them, and so it's kind of tricky. I just think I don't get too worked about it because I think there's still a couple of just so many vital games to happen to really see how it shakes out. So I think it'd be interesting to see if, let's say Washington wins out, Georgia wins out, and then you've got, Ohio State and Michigan. One of them's a 1-loss team, and now you look at the other 1-loss teams and you go, okay, who now goes in?
College football is
that's going to be interesting. That's when it's going to get really weird.
I said this to Brad the other day. College football is so unforgiving in how you have to be like perfect the whole season, but it provides these narratives of being able to talk about this stuff like this. Like in the NFL, the records are what the records are. They're all professional. So like you are slotted where you're slotted, and that's it. But in college, you're like, you look at these resumes, and when it comes down to it, like you think about, what if Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC title game? Does a non-SEC champion Georgia get in? And it's like, well, maybe, because are they one of the 4 best teams in the country? Because it's not necessarily about like when you lose. It's about like, are you one of the best 4 teams in the country?
This is just why I can't wait for them to expand the playoff to make it.
I agree.
You get the big conference champions, the big, the Power 5 champions, and then plus some others, and get rid of this ridiculous. Well, technically their schedule's harder. And I'm like, how do you judge that? I know you can judge that to a degree, but I mean, at some point, it is football, and we know what we know about football is teams compete and win.
And my man PNW, I want to ask you, because we have a friend who was on, his name is Tyler Budge at CF Budge, little plug for our man Budge, but he said he's from Oregon and he went to Oregon State, and he said that Oregon State and the state of Oregon is more meaningful to the state, to the people, than UW and Oregon. And a lot of people gave him crap because they said that Washington is their most hated rival. For you, having been riding and dying with the Huskies for 30 years now, do you hate Washington State as an in-state rival more, or has it turned into, because college football is so, the stakes are so high, that you hate teams like Oregon who can ruin, like, you know what I mean? Like the other like big teams. Like, I'm curious about that. So let us know in the comments, because that's been sort of a debate that people have had about whether
who's the big rival.
Yeah, because like for me, I went to Virginia Tech, and like UVA is cute, but like they never really scared us, right? Like I hated Miami a lot more.
Right.
This is old Big East days, and even like early ACC days, because I'm old now. I went to college in 2001 through 2006, so like the Virginia Tech was still in the Big East when I started in college. So like times have changed a little bit in the expanse of college football. But college football is just unforgiving. But I think it's fun because there's so many things that can happen. And then the addition, of course, of the conference championship games, which are solely for money, but also now have a huge impact on whether a team can make it. I mean, last year, TCU loses to Kansas State in the Big 12 title game. And it's like, oh my God, are they still going to get in? And they still did. They made the national championship game. Whoever made the national title game was going to get clobbered by Georgia anyway, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But this year, I don't think it's as much of a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I'm not sure it is. I'm
It's
not sure
not.
it is. I'm not sure that Georgia is as good as they were last year.
Like, if you look
They're
at the-
winning a bunch of games, but I don't feel like they have as. Maybe I'm wrong. I know they play in the SEC, but I don't feel like they have
Georgia has
had
been
as tough a schedule this year.
No, but they have been turning it on with Carson Beck has come back. He's a weird looking dude, by the way. But Carson Beck has been playing really well. Brock
Sorry,
Bowers was
Carson
hurt.
Beck.
Okay, sorry. I'm a weird looking dude too. But they've had some things clicking, and they've been playing a lot of the good teams now late in the season, and they've been dominating. So, like, that's what you want to see from them. And they're going to get Bama in the SEC title game. They have Georgia Tech at their last hurdle. They should just destroy Georgia Tech. And then, because, Georgia should not be losing to Georgia Tech. Let's put it that way.
No.
And the only thing that could get them in trouble is if they're looking ahead to Alabama. But I don't think they're going to do that. Excuse me. So I think that college football is more fun in that regard, but also the play is different. Like, it's unfortunate now because this game here is halftime 24-3, just an abysmal performance by the Seahawks. Sorry, man, but abysmal performance by the Seahawks. They missed a field goal, by the way, as time expired. So let's see. And there you go. So I'm always curious to hear. Like, from real fans about this stuff, because I think, like, national media likes to make something of these rivalry games when now, because college football has changed so much, that, like, some of these other rivals have come up. Like, it's not always an in-state thing. I think for you, because spoiler alert, Mike went to the Air Force Academy, so he is licking his wounds. About how Air Force ended their season. Starting 8-0, became a darling team for Iceman and coach, and then, as usual, whenever we get behind a team, they start to suck. So
I'm blaming you guys.
You should, you can. It's fine. I mean, there have been tons of teams where we have we're like, oh man, we got to talk about this team because we love them, and I'm like, but we shouldn't, because whenever we do, they lose, so we can't talk about
they
them.
just
So
fell apart.
I do apologize that the Washington Huskies are now going to lose to Washington State because we talked about them, but I didn't say they were a friend of it. I didn't say they were a team. Like, they're not our team yet, but. Yeah, so the Air Force, would you say that you get more riled up when they play the service academies, because the Commander-in-Chief trophy, which is a way different thing, but that means way more than any other, because Air Force,
most important thing.
But Air Force doesn't really have any, like, natural rivals, right?
Not really. I mean, Colorado State can be kind of a,
Because they're like, what, a mile?
oh no, they're
miles from each other.
They're in Fort Collins, so they're up the road. But they just have always been. They're both in the and they're Mountain West as well, so they're a conference rival as well, and in state. So there tends to be a bit of a good rivalry there. And in the past, it was a little more competitive. Between the two teams, but obviously the service academy games are big. Navy especially is a big.
Yeah, and then Army ruined it for you guys. But to answer your question, I went to Virginia Tech, so the Hokies are my team, and they're completely irrelevant now. And Mike is. I went there. See, I wax nostalgic about this, and you're gonna have to just deal with me doing it again. But I wax nostalgic about this stuff because I got to Blacksburg the year after Michael Vick left, and so we were still good. They still had the core team from a couple of guys from the 2000 national championship runner-up team, but it was still fun to be in Blacksburg. We were playing consistently top 10 football every year, and that was not why I went there, but it was an awesome add-on to go in there. Like, game days, Saturdays were just amazing, and it has sucked to see them fall off in the last 10 years or so. But I think it's because Virginia Tech is not a school that can compete with the way that college football, the landscape has shifted financially. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like, how much money that Virginia Tech has for NIL, but when you have these schools like Michigan who have Nike and Jordan brand behind them, they're going to be able to do that. Plus a lot of other things that happen at the university level that can shift sort of finances over there. But so that's my team. But we're bumping up here. It's a little after 10 o'clock on the East Coast. So PNW, my man, you got another 3 hours ahead of you to watch this crap on the television. So I hope that it goes better for you. But we are probably going to we're probably gonna chill out here for another couple minutes and then peace out. This is one of our impromptu things that we wanted to do because it's like, hey, we're fat, dumb, and happy at the end of a good day. So like, let's talk some football. And I was wondering if we were gonna get in a good mood Mike or not in a good mood Mike. But the Cowboys won, they won big, so we got in a good mood Mike. So but you know, and so like I said, when I got on your case, my man, it was because in this day and age, the trolls are everywhere. They are absolutely everywhere, to the point that one of the times when I did a feed while we were here, some guy told me to shut my kid up because he was, you know, having a good time with his cousins or, you know, in the background. And it's like, so I just, you know, get to the point where I'm like, hey, man, you don't like it? Get out. I mean, I don't care. It's no skin off my back. Like I said, there's 3 people looking at this stuff. So, you know, anyway, it's just all.
Thankfully, we got 3 today.
We did. Well, Jonah's a good guy. Jonah's been showing up since the start of, we called it College Kickoff Eve for a while, but we've shifted it because we're going to be doing some new stuff. Yeah, we'll be happy to have you. So that's actually a good segue for some folks. So we're going to be shifting our content a little bit. We usually did like one episode. We have a podcast too. We put out the audio every week. We used to do a main episode, then we started doing a live show on Friday. And Mike and I also do some football stuff where we kind of we try to dive into some different sports with some different people that have some different voices. So we're switching to a more live format because it's easier for me, first of all. So there's going to be like 2 shows. There's going to be like a main show where it's kind of like watching like Pat McAfee, where we're not going to take questions or anything like that. We're just going to kind of, you know, do our own show. We have an agenda, and then we'll do like a mailbag at the end, and then we'll do a traditional live show every week where we'll do, you know, comments and things like that. Because I think there is a place for both of those things, and so we're trying to tap into that energy. But we do have a good time here, my man. We try to be just real and authentic, and we are wrong a lot of times, although I'm still going to sit here and tell you that
I'd say we were actually pretty good this year so far, if I must say so. Or if you saw our NFL preview this year, man, I'm telling you what, we're taking some W's this year.
Look, this is actually...
I took some L's last year, but this year we're taking some W's.
Yeah, I agree. We're taking some W's because the Falcons stink, the Raiders stink, and there's a lot of teams that stink. But we appreciate everybody who's tuned in. Like I said, we're just having a good time here. So we hope you did too. We hope you had a great Thanksgiving. The Seattle Seahawks are about ready to receive this kick. It doesn't matter because they're not going to come back, because I'm pretty sure, like, if Brock Purdy's playing in the 4th quarter, I'll be very, very surprised. Yeah. But it's been a good time, my man. I appreciate just, you know, shooting the shit and just having a good time. So, Jonah, I hope you feel better. My man, PNW, go have some food, hang out with some family.
Stay dry. Get out the nice sun lamp there to...
That's right.
Get off that seasonal affective disorder.
Oh yeah, I forgot that you lived there for 3, or you lived there and were like depressed because
I wouldn't say I was depressed.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm not from there, so like I'm not used to those clouds. So for me, it was not the right climate.
That's right. So anyway, we appreciate everybody. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
everyone.
Black Friday, whatever it is you do. We'll talk to you next.